All right, we are back here. Second major of the golf season coming here, the PGA Championship at Oak Hill this week. Joining me today to break it all down, our PGA Tour guy, Dan DeMartini is here. Dan, welcome back. How are you?
Good. Recently back from Vidanta Resort in Mexico for the Mexico Open, and it was a lovely trip down there. I didn't get sunburned, and we saw some incredible golf being played by two of the best in the world with Finau and Rahm. So I was up close in person, and it was a fascinating view of how two top tier players prepare and duke it out when the course is playing very easy. Like it's almost like we were at the home run derby, right? You see when scores are in the 24, 25, 26 under, you know that you're going to see some really incredible golf, especially when those guys know that the course is playing easy and they can go for the green and go for birdies and eagles. So it was quite special to watch, and I was glad to be down there.
Yeah, I also give you credit here too. I know you're a guy who tends to burn easily, so the fact you went through Mexico without a sunburn is a big credit to you.
Well, for those that are looking here, you can see I got my Mexico Open hat, and I hid in the shade for most of the time. So, but it was wonderful and a very cool event. I think more people should consider Puerto Vallarta as a cool place, not only play golf, but just a vacation. I had a really nice time down there.
Absolutely. We haven't talked since the Masters here, so catch me up. I've obviously been busy with the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs around here, the draft. So, like, what have I missed in the golf world? Anything exciting?
Well, I mean, the following week at RBC Heritage was quite special. The Matt Fitzpatrick and Jordan Spieth Duke out that went to extra holes. It was kind of incredible after what we got to see John Rahm's performance at the Masters, and I hope most people kind of stayed tuned in because if they did, they got to see just how special and what one of the most incredible 9-iron shots you'll ever see to win a tournament by Matthew Fitzpatrick, and a really nice guy, a good person, and somebody that's easy to root for, especially going back to that episode in the Netflix series as well. So got to see some really cool golf there. Obviously, we got to see Tony Finau hold off John Rahm, world number one in Mexico. We got to see Wyndham Clark win just this past week and at the Wells Fargo Championship. And so we've seen some cool, venues. Quail Hollow is obviously very special. We got to see very unique players, top tier players. I mean, to see Matthew Fitzpatrick, Jordan Spieth one week, and then see Finau and Rahm duking out. I mean, golf has been really, really fun, and the top tier players are playing the best right now. So it's been very, very cool to watch, and we're in a great stretch here, especially with Byron Nelson kicking off tomorrow.
Absolutely, Harold. I wanted to get you on here because the PGA up in our neck of the woods here, Oak Hill Country Club, hasn't hosted the PGA, I think, of a couple of years. So tell the people here what do they need to know about this course.
This is kind of unique again. I feel like the PGA Championship and the US Open obviously are they like to mix it up a little bit in terms of their brand of golf. And from what I understand, in 2020, Oak Hill, in preparation for this event, hired a golf course architect who wanted to go make some modifications back towards the original Donald Ross design in the 1920s. And I guess over time, as the original design of Oak Hill East had been modernized to try to fit today's game, they took the opportunity to say, okay, this is becoming kind of a every 4 or 5 year major championship venue. Let's go back to that original design, but still make it so that there are some difficult holes, challenging, spots and decisions that you have to make on the course. But what I can say is there's a beautiful creek that runs right through the middle of this course. There's a brand new, it apparently in the original design of the course in the 1920s, I guess the par three sixth hole had been taken away over time with various changes throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. But this designer who came back in 2020 wanted to take the design of that par three and make that the sixth hole, now the fifth hole, and redesign it in a different portion of the course. So you're going to get to see a hole while it's not in the exact location it was originally designed. It's the same design of the hole, And what they've done is with a lot of these greens, you're going to see some very unique shapes. Like shapes, normally when you think of a green on a course, you think kind of a round, maybe it's elevated, maybe it's got a slope off to one side. These are very box like, they're like rectangular, and some of the corners are tilted up, some of the corners are tilted down, and a lot of these greens are protected by deep bunkers and, really, really lush green rough leading all the way up to kind of that false fronts and getting you onto the green. So I'm just excited because, the thing that I miss the most being in Florida full time is golf in the Northeast. And this time of year, now that everything has thawed out and there's been time to kind of get these courses looking in shape, there's nothing like, the grass and the rough and the greens in that portion of the United States. And I have a feeling it's just going to be really a beautiful viewing experience for golf fans.
Excited to see how this plays out. I'm also curious here, like what types of golfers you feel like would do well on this course?
It's really hard to tell because these guys have probably never gotten to play it in this unless they've taken some time off to sneak up there, which a lot of them do. A lot of the players that have the ability to take a week off and go up and get a couple practice rounds in. I think this is really going to surprise people. I'm under the impression this is going to be whoever is putting the best is going to win. Now, normally that's just kind of a standard statement. I don't think it's going to be that challenging for guys to get tee to green. You got to keep it in the fairway. They're going to grow. It's a major championship. They're going to grow the rough obviously high to try to protect the scores. Um, they're going to make the greens incredibly fast. But this is like a traditional Northeastern course design. You've got plenty of big trees, narrow fairways, some incredible sight lines, but you've got to put the ball in position and you've got to be able to execute when you have an opportunity for birdie. And I know that's kind of like an easy out, but it just makes a lot of sense there. You cannot miss opportunities to make birdies on this course. I just have a feeling par is not going to be enough.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's talk about the defending champ here, Justin Thomas. Obviously, last year between watching the PGA Championship play out and the recap of it in the episode of Full Swing. I mean, that was one of the storybook endings of all time with his big comeback to win the tournament here. Like, what do you think he can do for an encore here?
It's kind of interesting. He's had an up and down year, I guess, by his standards. He's got, I think, 4 or 5 different top tens, but he also has a bunch of kind of showings that are in kind of the mid 20s. And it's kind of rare for him. Obviously he missed the cut at the Masters this past year. And, there were obviously some opportunities that I'm sure he went back and worked on and addressed within his game. And he played okay at Heritage, and he was in the mix at Wells Fargo. I think he finished tied for 12th or 13th or something kind of in the mid-teens. But he's a player who, when he sees opportunity, he just capitalizes. If he is hovering on Saturday or early into the final round, you can never count him out, and that's what we saw last year. He did it at the Players Championship. He's just one of those guys that he might not have a 4 or 5 shot lead going into the weekend, but if he's 1 or 2 shots back, he's the guy you got to be just so careful. And nobody wants to see his name go charging up the leaderboard because he's hard to beat when he's on.
Yeah, that's for sure. You're talking about some of the top contenders here. Looking at most of these odds sites here, it looks like there's a choice between either John Rahm, who won the Masters recently, Scotty Scheffler, or both, or right around the top of the odds boards. How do you feel about those two guys?
Yeah, I got to see John Rahm operate in person just a couple weeks ago in kind of a very quiet setting in Mexico, and the work that he puts in, the team and the support that he has around him, you get why he's world number one. You get why he's playing just absolutely dominant golf. And he cares very deeply about his legacy, and he continues he's got this, even though he's had just this incredible season, he's setting all these records, he still looks very hungry. Like, he does not like to lose. And that's a scary thing for the other players out there because he's found something in his game this year that is consistently awesome. He's in the past, there's been a few weeks where he just hasn't had it, and he's not going to go out and necessarily shoot 7, 8 under. But now he's coming out and he's shooting 4 under, 5 under, 6 under, 8 under. He's just constantly under par. And, it'd be really scary if you see him get out to like a 3 or 4 stroke lead on Thursday. Going to be really hard for him to catch. And Scheffler is, no spoiler here, but even though, if you look at Scotty Scheffler's season so far, everybody's like, oh, the story's been John Rahm. Well, obviously Scotty's won. He won at Phoenix. He won the Players Championship. He finished 4th at Dell Match Play. And then he was tied for 10th at the Masters, tied for 11th at Heritage. So it's, even though he's been quiet, like, think about how good that stretch has been. I'll read it again. Phoenix first, T12 Genesis, tied for 4th at Arnold Palmer, 1st at the Players, 4th at Match Play, T10, T11. So he's basically gone out in the last 5 events he's played. The worst he's done is 11th. So you can't count him out. He's taken a couple weeks off. The last time we saw him, obviously, was Heritage, but he will be ready to go, and he will be somebody who, if I were betting, I would seriously consider as the favorite to win this one. I just think that he can, the way he plays golf and the way he's, hones in on these specific courses, and his game just translates so well to this style of golf. And, he's going to put it in the fairway. He's going to be accurate with his irons. He's got the short game and he's got the putting to match. So this is what you want right here. He doesn't need to hit it a mile. He's just got to give himself good looks on good angles into the greens.
That's for sure. Here, talk about some of the other top contenders here. Who are some of the other top guys you're watching you think could do well this week?
Yeah, I'm kind of more in a I'm looking at some of the guys like, the Xander Schauffele's are starting to heat up a little bit. I'm not 100% on where Colin Morikawa is. Obviously, we don't have, Jordan Spieth has a hand injury. He would have been somebody that I said this could be like a reemergence with the season that he's had and how competitive Jordan Spieth has been. I really kind of had him pegged as winning this one. Unfortunately, he posted just the other day about, the pain that he's experiencing. So we don't know how long that's going to take. Somebody that's been sneaky good is Victor Hovland. I know a lot of people, continue to say this kid's got all the talent in the world. He just can't seem to put it together for all 4 rounds. Well, every time that I don't think that Hovland's got a chance, he scares me and he's like in the top 3 and he's got a real chance. So maybe this is the one for him. So I would look at Hovland. I would look at Schauffele and, even potentially a guy like Matt Fitzpatrick, because, he's somebody who every time you forget about him, he comes back out and, he wins RBC. Okay, that's great. Oh, it's a designated event. And then people forget about him. And if you look at the odds, he's pretty far down the list for a guy who's being as dominant as he's been in the past year.
Yeah, that's for sure. A couple of injuries I'll point out here for you always listen here. Tiger Woods is out of this event after he had ankle surgery here. Obviously, Jordan Spieth right now is going to give it a go with the wrist injury, and Will Zalatoris out for the season with back surgery in April. So those are the only big names that are out or potentially could be hampered here, I feel like.
Yeah. Somebody, if you want to go into a sleeper real quick.
Sure.
Somebody who I just don't think enough people realize how good he's been and how consistent he is a guy named Sungjae Im. And it seems like people don't give him the credit that's due. I mean, if you look at the season he's had, Farmers T4, Phoenix was tied for 6th. The Players, he was tied for 6th. Zurich, he finished 6th. Wells Fargo, he was tied for 8th. RBC Heritage, he was tied for 7th. This guy, just all he does is top 10. So, I just think that he's somebody that you absolutely can't count out. And if the field starts to struggle, you could see Sungjae just holding on. So if you're looking for kind of a deeper cut here, he might be somebody that you should take a look at.
Yeah, I actually went back, looked the last time the PGA was here. This is back a decade ago in 2013. One guy you see who was in the top 10 that year was Rory McIlroy. He finished 7th and tied for 7th there. I believe last one at 3 under years. So what are the experience at this course going to help him?
It could. It absolutely could. And Rory's obviously somebody who you just don't know what you're going to get, right? When he's hot, he's unbeatable, and everybody knows that. That's not anything new. It's hard right now for me to favor Rory over a Rahm or a Scheffler purely because of the, it's that what have you done for me lately type thing. And, obviously there's, the Masters. Once again, I can't speak on Rory's behalf or anything, but I do think that this Masters hurdle that he has faced continues to kind of get in his psyche, and then it kind of will get out of there, and then by in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, he's going to just get red hot and he'll go right through the playoffs that way. So it's just one of those things where there's I don't know if it's obviously not a majors issue. It's just one of those things where you know, his time has to be coming for the Masters. And I don't know how many more years it is, but I just think that he'll be looking to come out and have a great start. I will tell you that I have a feeling that he's going to give everything he's got for those first 2 rounds. I just don't know what we're going to get from him.
Yeah, absolutely here. And last question, obviously here is people want to know like who you have winning this thing.
I've got Scotty Scheffler. I really do. I know that's a boring pick, but this is a guy who, he played so much golf. He needed a break. He needed a breather, and arrested Scotty Scheffler, I think, is really scary. He's been able to, hopefully enjoy a little bit of his recent success, get his mind and body right, and he's going to come out and attack this course. And, obviously with Byron Nelson going on, we'll see where things kind of net out this week. He's obviously a local, and going to the University of Texas, and I got to figure that at some point he's going to make his way up there and get plenty of practice in, and he's going to take this thing. So I'm going to go with Scotty Scheffler on this one. What about you?
It's a good question here. I think I might incline to go with you on that pick because I feel like you sold me on that one.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, it's going to be a lot of fun. Once again, this is a course that not a lot of people know, and you don't see it very often. And obviously, there's been a ton of changes since the last time it's been played there, with this whole course architect coming in. So tune in. You'll watch early on Thursday and Friday if you can, to learn, because they'll probably do plenty of features about the course changes, and you'll get plenty of aerial views, and I think you're going to see some really unique approaches towards this golf course. Some, obviously, I feel like it's going to be a divide. This isn't going to be like an event where everybody is at least around even and the cut line is like 4 under type of thing. I have a feeling that it's going to be your game either fits, or there's going to be some really high scores. So there's going to be an easy divide here. So we'll see. But that's what's exciting about it. We're kind of getting into the stretch of the year where most people are starting to think about playing golf, not just watch golf. So for those of you that are just getting out there and really starting to get your game together, I hope you hit them straight.
Absolutely, Dan. Thanks all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to find on social media. How can I do that?
Sure. DMart207 on Twitter.
All right, Dan. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.